Do you guys remember hearing about Riverdale for the first time? The dark Archie comic adaptation that took some of the world by storm? It was supposed to be a mixture of mystery and steamy teen drama, two genres that I really loved. I had only read a select few Archie comics up until this point in my life, mainly while browsing the store with my mom, but I was really hopeful that I would love this series. And I really did. By the time we hit the fourth season, though, it felt like kind of a running joke to enjoy this show. So when did it start going downhill? When did my guilty pleasure become a chaos machine? This is what I'm going to dive into today. So sit back, grab your serpent jacket, and enjoy the video. Season 1 was the peak of TV, especially for me. I was absolutely enamored with Cole Sprouse, who was set to play Jughead. While the comic series could get a little crazy, nothing prepared us for the chaos that the show would bring when it began in 2017. Archie Andrews was a brooding jock who also had a love for music. Jughead Jones was the moody writer who became a core character in the series, even though he was a weirdo. I mean, did you ever see him without that stupid hat? That's weird. As for Betty Cooper, she was the girl next door, young and naive with a huge crush on Archie. In the show, we see a darker side of her emerge. Veronica Lodge is the rich, out of touch princess type who had just moved to town. She becomes one of the core four characters, slowly growing as the show goes on. Cheryl Blossom is the popular mean girl whose twin brother Jason is murdered in the pilot episode. The murder is the main focal point of the season. Season 1 really focused on the characters that would become a core of the series. Betty and Veronica became fast friends, and romances formed between Jughead and Betty and Archie and Veronica. It explored the home lives of our main characters and introduced us to side characters that we would get to know as the show progressed. While it was a teen drama, it was also a murder mystery. Viewers really loved the first season because it was simple yet riveting. It had a great hook that kept fans interested. The reveal, while not shocking, was actually pretty good. Clifford Blossom was always suspicious, but the motive behind the crime was well written and actually made a lot of sense. Viewership was up and they had gained a fair amount of fans, but would that continue into season 2? After the season 1 murder mystery wrapped up, season 2 raised the stakes by focusing on a mass serial killer that they named the Black Hood. We dive deeper into our characters' lives, watching the core relationships work through a lot of real issues. We also see the relationship and tension between Jughead and his father, FP. Hiram Lodge begins to buy up businesses in Riverdale anonymously, planning something big. He buys Pops, he buys the drive-in, he buys Southside High School. Hell, I'm surprised he didn't try and pay Ross Butler to come back as Reggie with all the money that he was throwing around. While being a little unhinged, the season is actually great TV. It focuses on Betty's personal life and her interactions with the Black Hood. It dips into Veronica's life and how desperate she is for her father to change. We see Jughead begin to slowly follow in his father's footsteps. And we get to watch Cheryl come to terms with her sexuality. The writing this season did begin to feel slightly rushed, meaning it felt as though they were writing as they were airing the show. When the Black Hood was revealed to be Hal Cooper, fans were actually pretty upset, mainly because Hal didn't have green eyes, which was the main physical description that we got of the Black Hood throughout the season. Season 2 upped the ante and had a pretty mixed reception, but prepare yourself for our discussion of Season 3 because it gets wild. Are you ready? No, I mean, are you actually ready for this? Because this is when Riverdale goes from slightly unhinged to batshit insane. This season had so many plots at once that it left fans disappointed. This is when I feel like the writers of this show stopped taking it seriously and started writing it as a parody of teen dramas. I continued watching through the massive amount of plot that they shoved into this season. It took me through a roller coaster of, okay, here we go. Cults, D&D copies, Gargoyle Kings, organ harvesting, FBI informants, and the epic highs and lows of high school football. We had so many concurring plots this season that it could have fit into an entirely new series on its own. It really felt like they jammed way too much into it. The reveals were often and over the top, making the show feel like it was all twists and no real plot. This is where most fans stopped watching for the simple fact that it was very hard to keep up with. We watched a series that we loved completely change. For this reason, the reception of the season was pretty terrible, with a select few enjoying the plots aside from the farm. By the end of season 3, though, it was clear that the writers had sacrificed quality for shock value. Season 4 sadly opened with an in memoriam episode dedicated to Luke Perry. His real life death was a heartbreaking reminder to cherish the ones that you love while they are still here. During the season, we really start to see Cheryl struggle with her mental status, as she has dealt with a lot of loss and neglect. We see how hard it has been for her to let go of her brother. Veronica is running two whole businesses, but somehow also still has time for schoolwork and to make rum with Cheryl. Honestly, though, how does a high school senior going about selling alcohol? The plot this season really focuses on Jughead and his time at Stonewall Prep. The season also had a subplot about strange VHS tapes showing up on people's porches. They contained footage of the victim's house, recorded for several hours at a time. After a while, though, people began finding that they now contain grainy footage of staged murders. Overall, this season wasn't the worst, but I do feel like it lacked a gripping story. It was entertaining, but it was also very predictable. There are some fans who say that this is one of the best seasons, while others couldn't take it seriously after season 3. I also feel like I should mention that I rewatched season 4 for this, and all I could see when I saw KJ Appa was Mr. Fantasy. So thanks for that, TikTok. Season 5 quickly wraps up the mystery of the VHS tapes. Within the first 2 episodes, we find out it was Jellybean Jones. We then have a major time jump. After going their separate ways after graduation, the core group were brought back together to save Riverdale 7 years later. The core group agreed to be teachers at Riverdale High, taking them back to school but with a different perspective. Archie and Betty begin hooking up, which is exciting for fans since some of them had been rooting for them for years. In my personal opinion, I'm not sure why the time jump was included. I really would have liked to see how these characters grew, or didn't, after high school. Instead, we're thrust into their lives almost a decade later. Most fans felt that the time jump was unnecessary, and the characters didn't really feel authentic to who they were in the prior seasons, though this does seem to be a common theme in CW shows. While I still personally enjoyed this season, it did leave fans a little disappointed as it leaned more into the sci fi element. Season 6 was a return to a group dynamic, with some fans stating that they loved the embrace of the supernatural and comic book feel, and others stating that it was just too much. They did a 5 episode event entitled Riverdale, where Sabrina Spellman even helps them out. After episode 5, though, the gang returns to Riverdale in the main timeline. Suddenly, the characters have superpowers. We get several varieties of powers, ranging from superhuman strength to full on time travel. We meet a warlock from another timeline and see the gang begin to hone their powers to defeat him. They eventually do defeat him, but there's still a comet headed straight for Riverdale. Seconds before impact, the show is thrown back in time. To win? Well, I'll leave that for the season 7 section. Although I really liked this season, other fans felt that the superpower plot went way too over the top. Season 7 was a huge shift from what the show began as. We are taken back to 1955, shining a light on the homophobia and racial tensions of the time. We see Cheryl and Kevin struggle with societal norms, hiding their sexuality. Thankfully, we also do see them break out of this shell and be their authentic selves. I really actually enjoyed this season because it felt more like the comics, which I have now read more of. This was like a soft reboot. I really liked having a plotline within the show referencing their own comic book origins. Though between the time travel and the actors playing teenagers when they were in their 30s, some people were just put off by all of it. In the final episode, we meet an elderly Betty. Out of the blue, we're treated to the knowledge that Betty, Veronica, Archie, and Jughead were in a quad relationship for their whole senior year. And let me just say, this really pissed some fans off. It felt like a cop out. Like they didn't want to choose who to pair together out of fear of backlash, so they just said, they all date each other now. Does that make you happy? The series finale did feel kind of rushed. They tried to fit way too much inside the 45-minute time span, and it just felt really cramped together. I do, however, like the fact that we got to hear how each character's lives turned out, even if some of them had very traumatic ends. Overall, I really do love Riverdale. I think I always will. It holds a special place in my heart for some reason. But it really did go downhill after season 2. When I tell people I enjoyed this series, the first question is usually, why? And the only thing I can say in my defense is that I love cringy entertainment. Things like Twilight and Pretty Little Liars and trash reality TV and Disney Channel original movies. I really do understand why people didn't like this series. I feel like it went overboard way too quickly and pushed everyone away. When did you think it started to go downhill? Leave a comment so we can discuss it. I also wanted to say thank you if you made it to the end of my video. I am new to all of this, but if you enjoyed the content, feel free to subscribe and come back for another one. Bye!